This is AndyTube, and this is the Singer Model 513. And in this video, I want to show you how to take out the take-up lever mechanism. Now, I've done this before on other videos, but the way this attaches up here is a little different than the other videos I did. Just as the needle bar in this had a little pib in the bottom of it, this take-up lever has a couple of differences in it. And one of them is where there's often a let's get back here, where there's often a righty-loosey big screw up here going into a stud. This one just has a little C-clip going to the stud. So usually the preferred method to take this out is to come up here and loosen this screw here to take the pressure off of the stud and be able to pull the stud out with the linkage attached. And then there's another screw, and this is a set screw, and it is similar to the way the other machines that I made videos about does attach. Let me reposition this a little bit and I'll show you that. Okay, let's try this angle here. So, and this stud right here of the thread take-up lever goes into the needle bar crank here, the weight, and there's a set screw to hold that you access from up on top of the machine up here. There's a little hole. So this is the best position. You will rotate the hand wheel towards you until you can look down this hole that's here, and you'll see the top of that set screw. Now, if you want to use penetrating oil, I know this is a plastic part and you wouldn't oil it for use, but if you get some oil on it, well, to facilitate removing a stuck part, you can clean that oil off when you clean the part and it will not harm the plastic. Okay, so when you've rotated the cam wheel or the crank, needle bar crank, until you can look down this hole up here and you can see the top of that set screw, then you want to put your long narrow screwdriver in there and break that set screw free. So I can get some light on there and remove it, or loosen it enough to be able to pull this stud out. I'm not having much. There we go. Whoop. Oh yeah, I forgot, they always do that. So when you push down on the screw, the whole crank is going to move, so you've got to do something here to, oh boy, to hold that in place. You can hold the hand wheel, or you can try and get your hand or something in there to hold that wheel when you push down on the screw, because you have to push down on it a little bit, you know, to get it moving. It definitely wants to move. So I backed that set screw out about halfway, which should be plenty. Well, I guess I backed it out more than halfway because it just fell down in there someplace. Oops. So I'm going to go back up here to the screw that holds the stud over here in, and up here is the opening that the screw for the pressure bar mechanism is, and right behind it you'll see the screw that holds this stud in, and you can just take that out now. Got all my light over on the machine, so that's what that screw looks like. If you saw the video I did of taking out the pressure bar, and I told you this screw didn't hold the pressure bar adjustment bracket in, it was for something else, and this is what it was for, to hold that stud of the thread take-up lever mechanism in. So I'll put that aside. So now you have both the set screw here loosened or removed, and the regular screw that holds the stud in. So the idea with this mechanism is the same as the other videos. It's got to come out, and it's got to come kind of together. You can't pull one stud out and then the other, because the tolerances are just so tight. So since this up here is plastic, I like to hook my finger right behind this metal part and try and pull it. See, okay, that's going to break free from the needle bar crank. And then up here, yep, I did more pushing it in. Let's see if I can get over by that screw, and it's, yeah, boy, it's pretty cruddy in there, I think. So see if I can keep working it. Yeah, just the gentle wiggle is kind of rocking it out. There we go. There. Okay. Now watch out for this, because this is where that needle bar clamping stud went into, and this is just free on the back side here. I mean, it's not screwed on, so it'll come right off. Good thing to clean and polish and everything. Okay, and then the rest of these parts, there is a little C-clip here, and that's the part that they decide to make plastic. And I've got to kind of see what happened to my oh, I see it up here at the top. I was going to say what happened to my set screw, because I do not want to lose that, and I see it just sitting up here on top of the needle bar crank. So I'm going to pull it out. As a matter of fact, no, I guess I'll keep it out. I'll just be careful not to lose it. Usually I just loosen it enough to get the stud out, and then I will screw it back into the crank so I don't lose it. And when you go to put this back on, here's a good tip for you. On the stud that goes into the needle bar crank, right, so it's kind of like this, right? That's how it goes back in, and you have to push both of those studs and wiggle them in at the same time. The tolerance is close, but the important thing here is that this stud that goes in the needle bar crank has a big flat spot in it, right to there. And that flat spot, when you're putting it back in, that flat spot has to face up, because when you put the set screw back in, that set screw has to rest on that flat spot, because this, you don't want this turning in the needle bar crank. This is stationary and the rest of the parts move. So you must put that flat spot up, and you'll notice this screw head or stud head or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, it has a place for your screwdriver. See? So once you get the stud in there, you can look down from the top, and you can, if you have the set screw out, you can turn that until you see the flat spot. Okay, and when you're looking down here with the set screw out, you'll be able to see the stud, and usually what you see is the stud itself is very shiny and the flat spot is dull. So you want to be sure that that flat spot is level with the opening, and you can turn that until you see the flat spot, and when you see that flat spot's up, put your set screw in and go down and tighten the set screw against that flat spot. Okay, and once that is in, then you take the screw that goes up here on top for the other stud and you put it in, and if you just shove everything in hard and tighten it, you may have binding. So when you've got both studs in, your set screw is tight, you put this screw in and you start tightening it while you're turning the thread take-up lever. I can't turn it because it's not in, the stud's not in, but you just keep turning the hand wheel gently and slowly towards you while you slowly tighten this to make sure that it will go, the needle bar crank will go around and around and the lifter will go up and down. If you get it too tight, it'll start binding as that cam goes by, and you'll feel it. So you'll have to back out the screw and wiggle that stud in and out a little bit and make sure it's not in too far, and then slowly tighten the screw while you're slowly turning the hand wheel until you see the spot where it's a nice smooth needle bar crank and your lever goes up and down and it doesn't bind. Usually it binds when it's in this position here in the corner. So I think that's the good advice. Don't lose your set screw for the needle bar crank, and when you put them back in evenly, put that set screw in first. Make sure it's on the flat part of the stud, and you can use a screwdriver right in the front of that stud to rotate the stud till you can see the flat spot. Once both studs are in place and you have your set screw holding tight, you can tighten this one all the way. That's what you do first. Then you put this other stud screw in and you slowly tighten it while you're rotating the hand wheel and make sure the mechanism is not binding. If it's too loose, you'll have backlash, but usually you just gently push both studs in all the way, tighten the set screw on the needle bar crank, and then put this screwdriver in and start rotating the hand wheel. Sometimes you'll have a bind right away, so you just kind of back that stud out, and it's such like a micron measurement. It's just a wee tiny bit, but just back it out a little and keep tightening until it's all the operation is smooth. No binding. No binding. Okay. So since that part up here was a little different, and this is plastic, I wanted to show you how to do the removal and give you some clues for the replacement. So I hope that was worth your time. I'm glad you came to my channel, and I hope you will come back. Take care.